Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Minimalist podcast. I'm your host, Meg Carney, and I'm an outdoor and environmental writer and author of the book, Outdoor Minimalist, Waste Less Hiking, Camping, and Backpacking. The Outdoor Minimalist podcast has the goal to give listeners actionable ways to waste less hiking, camping, backpacking, and more during every step of their process. Your impact outdoors starts long before you hit the trail and goes beyond leave no trace ethics. You'll learn how to identify sustainable outdoor brands, how to ask hard questions regarding sustainability, and begin to shift and evolve your mindset to integrate minimalism into all of your outdoor pursuits. How does minimalism fit into your outdoor adventure wardrobe? And is it possible to have only one shirt that works for every one of your outdoor adventures? In episode 103 of the Outdoor Minimalist podcast, we aim to answer those questions. To do that, I sat down with founder and adventurist Jen Loofburrow to see how and why she created a company whose goal was to reduce the number of apparel items you buy. Jen loves long adventures outdoors, self-propelled by foot, pedal, paddle, or ski. She launched Alaska-based outdoor apparel brand Alpine Fit to combine her passions, values, and experiences in materials development and adventuring in the backcountry of Canada and Alaska. Alpine Fit makes essential pieces of clothing for adventures of all kinds, offering fit options for all body shapes and odor-resistant fabrics in base layers, bushwhacking leggings, hats, headbands, and neck gaiters. This podcast is sponsored by Diorite Gear. Diorite Gear sells sustainable trekking poles handmade in their Portland, Oregon workshop. By taking ownership of their production, Diorite Gear is also able to minimize their trace in manufacturing and in the environment, while their poles' recyclable and easily repairable components allow you to do the same. As someone that hikes daily and often in the Cascade Mountains or its foothills, trekking poles are a staple in my gear lineup. And the Diorite poles not only have comfortable cork handles, but I love the high level of adjustability, durability, and overall performance, no matter the time of year I happen to be hiking. Use the code MINIMALIST for 10% off your order. So thanks for joining me today, Jen, on the Outdoor Minimalist podcast. Do you go by Jen or Jennifer?
Jen, with Jens.
Okay, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. To start the interview, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and that is essentially, how did you first become interested in outdoor recreation, and how does it fit into your life now?
Well, I started spending time outdoors, I suppose, as early as like 2 weeks old. My parents had a friend with a boat, and on the weekends we would get to go out on this boat on the lake in the Great Lakes area where I grew up. So probably that's my first intro to being outdoors regularly. And then it just kind of grew from there with summer family camping trips and cabin trips with my grandparents when I was little.
And did you grow up in Alaska, or did you move there after you were an adult?
I moved there as an adult. I grew up actually in Canada, in Ontario, Canada. And my favorite parts of the year were the summer months when I would get to go way up north to really remote wilderness, woods, and small lakes and go explore in the trails and forests and water.
What drew you to that area, like to move there and live there?
In Alaska?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I met somebody from Alaska and started visiting here over a period of years and just fell in love with it. Some of my favorite places on the whole planet are here in Alaska, and I've had the good fortune to travel to a lot of countries. And yes, some of my favorite places in the world are here in Alaska. So about 9 years ago when we had the chance to move here, we did.
And did you move there for the company Alpine Fit, or is that something that came along later?
That's something that came along later. We moved here for other, work, school, career choices. And then I started Alpine Fit. I started dreaming about it probably a bit longer than this ago, but really about 4.5 years ago, we started it.
And what was kind of the genesis of that? What inspired you to want to start an apparel company, and what specific problem, I guess, were you solving?
Well, a lot of the trips that I have done and the places that I like to go to when I have free time or clear out my schedule to have free time are long trips outdoors. So I would say like I have some building blocks in my background that formed good pieces towards what I'm doing. But really the origin of it is thinking about these key kit pieces that you choose to bring with you when you can only bring a set amount of things in your physical space or weight of your backpack. So whether that's traveling in South America, a long backpacking trip, through hiking trip, or could even be a water-based trip like a paddling trip by kayak or pack raft. I really love fabrics and love outdoor gear, and I love the features that make something versatile. So I sort of drew on my materials development background. I had another business at one time as well, and I've worked for small, medium, and large outdoor companies. So I just kind of brought it all together, and I don't know, I just have that entrepreneurial like desire to be self-employed and create something. So it's just kind of like literally scooping up all of my passions, and that results in developing what these key pieces are that can really support an outdoor adventure sort of kit.
And I guess what would you say some of those key pieces are? And kind of for the listeners that haven't heard of Alpine Fit, if you wouldn't mind just explaining the specific things that you guys make.
Okay, well, Alpine Fit, we're based in Anchorage, Alaska, and we have a small manufacturing facility here. So everything is made in USA, and a lot of our products are actually certified made in Alaska. Our products are base layers, bushwhacking leggings. The base layers include tops that could be hiking tops as well, tank tops, and then base layer bottoms. And then hats, headbands, and neck gaiters. So far, we probably aren't going to go too broad in our category because everything that we add or too broad in different categories, because everything that we add to the collection, we really want to be truly versatile for many different activities that you do. So it kind of all started with the long sleeve shirt that you could literally wear year round. It's comfortable enough in the summer months that it's the shirt you bring on a camping trip or backpacking trip. And it's still also a great base layer in the winter. And our main things are these fabrics that are odor eliminating or odor resistant, having fit options for body shapes. So these cool technical functions and features are offered in more styles that fit more bodies. So you're very comfortable and feel good and all of that in their gear. And then the domestic manufacturing component of it as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love all of those as kind of like the framework of producing a product. And I guess when you settled on apparel as the versatile piece of outdoor gear, what made you decide that that was what you wanted to produce? And also, like, why is that such an important piece of gear that people should be considering when they are shopping for products?
Well, they do form the basis and the foundation of, being clothed to go in the outdoors, which you don't usually think all the time of your clothing as part of your safety gear, but absolutely, like, our fabric is UPF 50 plus sun protection. So it's providing some protection there. It layers well with other things. So you have, the insulation properties to be warm enough when you're sleeping, or, versatility to like be breathable and all of that sort of stuff. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but the question, can you just remind me what the question is?
Yeah, essentially, why is clothing such an important consideration when you're choosing outdoor gear, and why should we be thinking more about the properties involved?
Okay. Well, especially when you're going on a longer trip where you don't have the opportunity for laundry or changes of clothes, you need something that is super versatile, that is going to have those safety features like sun protection, warmth, quick drying, breathability. You also need it to have the comfort features. You want it to feel comfortable against your skin. You want the seams to be in the right places to not chafe with your backpack straps or whatever it is. And then you want something that you obviously can move in and do the actual physical activity of what you're doing. So you can make some other shirts or any old shirt work and do the activity you're doing. But if you need it to be truly versatile and function in a myriad of situations, everything, including the fit, the seam placement, the fabric properties, and the style features, make it more functional for more use cases and comfortable, successful adventures.
Absolutely. And that versatility, I feel like really aligns with minimalism because you don't want a lot of different
Hmm.
types of clothing. You can kind of just like overlay it into all of the seasons, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And so I guess
And
I'm kind of, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's the one tough thing like that we're facing right now is that we have a lot of requests for our current main shirt has a crew neck, which to me is the ultimate versatile neckline because you can pair it with a neck gaiter to have extra warmth. Um, I get a lot of requests for a hooded top, which I also see the value in because obviously for sun protection, you're going to have a bit more. But it's always that sort of choice of keeping it super multifunctional. You're not always going to use a hood in every situation. People could say, well, you just wouldn't wear the hood. But for it to be truly versatile, it needs to be almost as minimal as it can be while having all the features that it should have and be sort of a modular piece with all the other pieces that you would bring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that there were a lot of different design considerations when you were making that initial piece of gear. That was your
Mm-hmm.
first shirt, was the long sleeve, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So when you were designing that shirt, how were you able to cut out redundancy in the market, basically? Because I feel like there's so many different clothing options. So how did you say, like, yeah, this is the shirt that needs to be produced right now?
Well, um, interestingly enough, nobody or very, very, very few people in the entire fashion and outdoor apparel worlds are offering different fit options. So the most unique thing that we do is making an actually legitimately performing great piece of gear in more fit options for body shapes. And I have to put that first and foremost because it's the most unique thing. Everyone knows there's the brands that fit them and the brands that don't fit them, and you try different size in some of those brands and it just doesn't work. So that aside, getting back over to the features, I love merino wool as well. And our flagship original shirt actually is a non-wool base layer, which is kind of a unique thing to perfect and pursue a new, better, perfect version of that. There are many awesome merino wool products out there. There are some folks that either can't wear merino wool due to an allergy or prefer not to wear merino wool in the summer months in hot conditions. So this first unique shirt that we decided to develop was the perfect non-wool base layer to be this complement in the wardrobe. And I love merino wool. I wear merino wool. We have merino wool in the collection as well. But just developing what's this other shirt that can be there and have as good of performance features for the folks that can't wear wool, and try to be as mindful of, environmental concerns and sustainability concerns. And that's where we are now. We're always in pursuit of what even the next best thing is and more perfect version of it can be.
How do you balance that with like pursuing the next best product and things like that without adding too many pieces to your product line?
We would not really bring out substitutes to it. It would be like what we're producing now is the best version of it that we can possibly make. It's the best version of the fiber and fabric that we can produce and make it in the most sustainable and best way. And if we're going to bring out something different, it shouldn't be a direct substitute for something that we already make. It needs to be unique enough or a completely different part of that kit for us to make it. So I usually try to avoid redundancy completely. And that's why I don't have a hooded top in our collection yet, because, you would be choosing the crew neck or the hooded top. You wouldn't need to bring both on a trip.
I guess I'm just kind of curious how you balance that like minimalist type approach to
Mm-hmm.
producing the clothing with like a profit. Because
Yes.
you want people to buy your clothing. But if you're saying like this is the perfect shirt that you can use for all of your adventures, how do you kind of
Mm-hmm.
balance that?
That's tough. I mean, that's not inherently good business to be like, buy one, never buy again. Not, it's good, but it's not, how you have gigantic net profits. So a tough thing that we had to really look at last year in October was are we pricing our things correctly so that when we sell just one of something to one customer, one customer, if they buy our one shirt, I do want it to be that shirt that is the shirt they need for years of adventures. Not baking like long-term profitability into the cake, but just like, are we actually selling this at the price that it costs for the materials and the labor to produce it, with the features, with the, everything in it? Is it priced correctly, that if that one customer only ever buys this one shirt from us, we've sold them that to them at the price that was correct, that we weren't losing money when we sold it in the first place. And that's a hard thing when you're a new business, because you want to make it the most accessible to the most people. So you undercut what it actually costs to, this fabric actually has silver in the fiber of it. So it's not an inexpensive fabric to begin with, but you have in your mind, oh, I wish we could sell it for this price. And then you sell a bunch for that price. And you're like, no, we're not in the business of undercutting what it actually costs to produce it to sell more. We want to sell the correct amount for the correct margin that you're supposed to sell it for, so that we have the ability to keep producing this and discovering new customers that need that one shirt. So
absolutely,
it's hard. It's very hard, but it's like, we also don't promote this as much as we should, but we offer like free repairs on our gear. So that is probably something I should shout out to the world, because it's, good and all of that. And we're way into repair culture here. There's actually local repair workshops that both myself and JB on my team have attended to help people learn how to repair base layers and other gear in their wardrobe. So yeah, it's kind of contrary to one another, or contradictive in nature, but it's kind of like the way it's got to be going forward for the sake of all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that is kind of the mindset and the approach. And I wish all apparel companies had repair policies, because sometimes things just happen, and it would be nice to have someone that could fix it in a way that, one, looks good, and two, will stay together for a longer period of time. And you mentioned a little bit about the fabric, and I think we're talking about the Rendezvous Ridge long sleeve, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So for listeners, if you want to look at the shirt that we're actually talking about, that's what it's called. And I'll link it in the show notes as well. But can you talk a little bit about how you settled on that fabric blend, and kind of the properties that it offers that may be different than merino wool?
Okay. Well, first of all, it is a poly-based fabric. It's a recycled poly-based fabric. And, we can have a whole set of conversations about that. I'm prepared for that also at any time, this conversation or another one. There's silver in the fiber of the fabric. And so silver, we all have odor-causing bacteria that naturally thrives and exists on our bodies. And normally a synthetic is an environment that odor-causing bacteria thrives in, but silver is just not an environment that odor-causing bacteria can thrive in. So it can't reproduce. So even in the sweatiness of your hiking and sleeping in a tent and all that, the body odor can't, succeed at doing what it wants to do, which is reproducing. And that reduces the body odor buildup on the clothing, and consequently you, while you're wearing the garment. So the idea with that is that, first of all, you can wear it more times between washes, which is good for other considerations with synthetics, obviously, like micro shedding and things like that. Washing less is very important for that. It also allows you to wear it longer. There's actually a hygiene component to it, and it can be this truly functional piece for your one shirt that you can bring for a 2-week-long trip or whatever it is. The other things about it is that it's really soft and supple to the touch. So even though it's a synthetic, which many of us think of as a plastic-like feeling, like cold to the touch when it's cold or hot and clammy when it's hot, it has a really nice, almost merino wool or cotton-like feeling to it. So it's really a fabric that you do feel like comfortable to put on in any temperature, wear all day, wear for 24 hours a day, and put it on repeat. So, and then it has really good stretch. So you have the really good mobility and comfort for all of the activities that you want to do.
It sounds cool. I feel like I have heard of other things that had like some type of silver in it,
Mhm.
and I am not remembering what exactly they were. Are they in the pea cloths? Do you know?
I don't know. I believe that there is silver technology in it. It's so funny that you mentioned that because every time this comes up, I'm in a place or time that I don't actually like go and read all of the fine print about the fabric because there's many silver technologies out there. So I'm not 100% sure about those, but some uh, silver antimicrobial, what do I want to say, functionality comes from a chemical that is washed into the fabric that will eventually wash out of the fabric in our base layers and possibly in those. Um, it's actually in the fiber level of the fabric, but I'm not 100% sure about the pea cloths. But
You'll
in
have to
ours
look
for
it up.
sure. Yeah, I do have to look it up. I keep thinking I should and don't remember to like to do that. But basically, when silver is in the fiber level of the yarn of the fabric, it's not something that will go away over time, and it won't go into the wastewater. It won't um, leave as a property in the garment. It's literally in the fiber of the fabric.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then it is longer lasting. And like you said, it's
Hmm.
not kind of like leaching out. I feel pretty confident that it is at least in the Kula Cloth brand. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll look it up and maybe include something in the show notes or something to
Yeah, but
clarify.
it is worth bringing up though because the silver technology we're using is a permanent technology, and there's many other things out there that are odor resistant treatments that will not last the lifetime of the garment or whatever the product is. So yeah, I'm pretty confident as well about Kula cloth, but I don't know 100% for sure, so I don't want to say something incorrect for your listeners.
Yeah, I think that that is important to note though, like you're saying, because I think in a lot of the product specs, especially when you're shopping online, fabric
Hmm.
that is synthetic will be labeled as like odor
Hmm.
resistant or something like
Hmm.
that, and they might not clarify exactly how they achieved that. So
Absolutely. And if it's not annotated in like the fiber blend, I'm not sure that it could be anything other than a chemical that's washed in. Just with my fabric nerd background, like if you see our fiber content, it says this certain kind of yarn called Ionic Plus that you can go down the rabbit hole of looking that up, but it's literally silver in the fiber of the fabric. Um, yeah, there are a
interesting.
lot of claims that are made on products out there that may not be durable or permanent.
Yeah, it's hard to know what all of the
Hmm.
different options are
Hmm.
unless you are really
Yeah.
taking the time to get to know what everything means and what they're saying.
Yeah.
And most consumers don't have that amount of time.
Yeah. That being said, merino wool is naturally odor resistant, so there won't be any extra fiber needed to be in a merino wool garment to make the claim. If it's blended with polyester, it might not be as odor resistant as you would like it to be. But if it's merino wool on its own or merino wool with a small bit of nylon or recycled nylon, usually it's very good at being naturally odor resistant.
Is that one of the reasons why you chose to use merino wool for some of your other products?
I do love merino wool. I mean, for insulation sake, and especially in the winter months, it's a miracle fiber. There's nothing I could say that would say that it's not an amazing fiber, yarn, and fabric and finished product to use merino wool. So yeah, it's important to have both. And I could have had a whole business that was just merino wool base layers, but I wouldn't have been doing something new or different. The fit options for body shapes would have still been different,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I wanted to have this other choice out there.
The other choice that is comparable in performance.
Yes.
And so I guess I'm going to get to the burning question about synthetics because we talk a
Yeah.
lot about textiles on the show. I love talking about textiles and I learn so much from everyone that I speak to. So I am interested to hear what you have to say. And you already mentioned like the fact that synthetics, when you wash them, they're going to shed microplastics. So how did you kind of get around that in your design choices? And also, are you doing anything that would combat those types of effects?
So the truth is you can't get around anything. We need to do things the most responsible way that we can. So probably the number one best thing we're doing to combat it is just making it have this odor resistant property so it doesn't have to get washed as often. I have a lot of avid like trail guides and, hardcore outdoor athletes that use our shirts here in Anchorage, Alaska. And they're like, yeah, it's awesome. I just like get my shirt out and I know that I'm good for like 2 weeks of workouts, which maybe is gross, but also it's washing it less. And that's part of it. Just to cut straight like to the point though, we're actually on a really big project of understanding the micro shedding level of our products. So, there's design choices and fiber and fabric availabilities for the properties you want, and then constantly assessing, reevaluating if it's the correct thing. Are we doing? What can we do better? What can we do differently? So, like I said before, we don't want to like we don't want redundancy in the line. It's more like, this is what we have. This is how we make it. Let's completely know and understand this. Let's on the side consider if we should be developing what the future version of it is. And then it would come in as a replacement for that in the future. So a weird challenge of being a small business. So it's recycled poly based now, but the first version of it wasn't even recycled poly based, which absolutely killed me. And it was a real hard thing. We didn't make a lot of the fabric that wasn't recycled poly based, but being a small and new company, sticking your neck out and wanting to work with real big, reputable fabric mills that have really good best practices for wastewater management and solar powered factories and all that sort of stuff. You have to get your foot in the door with them somehow. So you have to like commit to their, price points and minimums and things like that. And I really wanted to push having the silver fiber in the fabric. And I really wanted it to be with recycled, if we're going to use any synthetics, to be with recycled materials from recycled plastics. And they basically, at the beginning, they were very willing to work with me, but I had to sort of compromise at the beginning to even get the first thing developed. And then as soon as I could get through that first threshold of proving to them this, then we could move the needle on more sustainable choices. So that was something that I couldn't get around it. I had to go right through it, and not maybe in the way that was the most perfect way, but with the idea that we're doing this small commitment now to get to a different place in the future, and then a different place in the future again. And I have some fun ideas for fancy future fabrics that will exist, but they do take a lot of time to develop and test to make sure that they're going to withstand like the actual outdoor rigors, because it's no good to have a super sustainable thing that falls apart. And then you just have to replace it often too. And then you're wasting all the money of shipping fabric around and the labor of running sewing machines to sew them and things like that. So like, it's like full immersion, all encompassing. You're always thinking about it. And there's things now, I don't love that it's recycled poly based. That's where we're at now, and doing the most sustainable, everything else that we can do possible. And there'll be a pursuit of some other future state that's even better.
Yeah, I think that it can kind of be easy for consumers to like latch on to one, I guess, like bad aspect of something. And because we don't see the big picture, right? And I think for small businesses, especially, there are like bigger hurdles to overcome when it comes to like choosing the textile mill and like who's producing it and how it's going to be done. So yeah, it's really interesting to kind of hear how you worked through that and where you are at now.
Yeah. And yeah, they're tough questions that are like hard to face head on, but it's good to ask those questions. It's good to be questioning your choices of what you're choosing to buy and where. And the most important thing you can do is be very thoughtful in the choices you make. Wear those things till they're threadbare, repair them as you go, wash them as least often as you can.
Yeah, I guess if we're talking about that, do you have any specific plans or maybe already a process implemented that would allow your products to be returned or like recycled to be added back into the production line?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have any formalized thing that we say outwardly. So we probably should get better at telling the world like the options that we would have. But we do offer free repairs for the gear that we have. And we do have sort of a collection of things that You know, if they ever had some sort of problem with them, we keep those items. And, you know, if it's a case like a defective thing happened, or, you know, somehow it got delivered and the package had a hole in it and we need to replace something for a customer or whatever it is, the item that has the flaw, so to speak, we keep those and repair those and save them for some sort of, you know, a sale or something like that. And absolutely, I don't think we've been in existence long enough yet, or maybe I need to get out of my head on that, but it's totally up our alley to have a, you know, the kind of programs where you're done with your Alpine Fit garment. Sure, mail it back to us. We'll pay for you to mail it back to us, kind of a thing. We just really, at the moment, kind of take it all case by case and provide the best customer service solution we can, and haven't really formalized any of these things into public facing programs, but we do it on a case by case basis.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, sometimes it can be hard to know if a brand will respond to you if you have a consumer question like that. So that's nice to know, just as a listener.
And just for any listeners out there, I'm sure you know this, but like there's just so many secondhand gear shops now that, you know, I love going and shopping at the local secondhand gear shop here in Anchorage. And, you know, that's one of my favorite options for when you're done with your piece of gear, is to take it to one of those shops. But probably in the future, we'll formalize something, or at least put it in our frequently asked questions, like, but right now it's like, sure, oh, you have an issue? Sure, we'll repair it. So let's figure this out. Send us a picture. We'll get problem solving.
Awesome. I love that. You already mentioned a couple of them just in your last statement, but do you have any other advice for consumers that want to minimize their wardrobes, and cut down on unnecessary purchases?
Advice. I think I might be repeating myself here, but yeah, just be very careful and thoughtful in the choices that you make. There are a lot of great small brands doing things that, if you sort of peel back the layers on doing a little research, you might be able to find. You might think that a small brand that's not in one of the bigger stores or in a store, and it's also good to shop local, so I'm kind of torn there, but like there's a lot of small brands across the country that may be available in local stores near you too, that are doing really good things, pushing the boundaries on sustainable materials and manufacturing and good business practices on the back end. That's oftentimes what people can't see. So choose those brands that are really in line with your values in the first place, because you're supporting that going down the line and being available as products in the future. I'm a big fan of making sure things that I buy are versatile for many different activities. And oftentimes I use something that I already have in my wardrobe and try a new activity and make sure that I actually love that activity, using makeshift substitute gear in my closet before I go out and get the new thing that replaces it. And then again, like the secondhand gear shops are a great place to find some things to transition into making thoughtful purchases of things you'll actually use a lot for years to come.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that really aligns with what a lot of different guests have talked about on the show, just kind of starting with what you have and making sure that you're going to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just going to sit at the back of your closet, and then when you purge your closet, you send it to Goodwill.
Yeah, it's funny because like I literally make outdoor activewear, and the running leggings that I'm running this time of year right now, because we still have like this transition between late spring or late winter into spring in Anchorage, Alaska. So in the mornings, it's still been actually kind of freezing, and I've been wearing these biking leggings that I got my husband that didn't fit, and we couldn't return them just for whatever reason. When we got them, they weren't the right size. So like literally me, who makes outdoor activewear, I have these pieces in my wardrobe that get worn because like there's no reason to not wear some of the things that I have if they're the right fabric weight and stretch properties for the use case. Like until they get, I don't know, when am I going to not wear those at this time of year in Anchorage, Alaska? I don't know. They'll hopefully last for a few more years.
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, I still have clothes that I probably wore like 10, 15 years ago. So I feel like clothes can last a really long time if you take care of them.
Yeah. Washing them carefully and thoughtfully is also good too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing about kind of your design process and the materials. It was really interesting to hear about a different type of material that I haven't really been exposed to before. So how can listeners learn more about Alpine Fit and check out some of your products?
Okay, well, our website is alpinefit.com. Our social media is at alpinefitco. We love visitors, so if you're in Anchorage, Alaska for any reason, it's surprising how many people actually come to Alaska. Please come visit us in person. Our addresses are on our website. And we actually do a lot of pop-up sort of trade show and events. So we're going to look into doing some around the country. So we may even be at an event near you, like through hiking festivals or other sort of events like that, and popping up at our friends' businesses around the country too. So check our events page and we may be somewhere near you in person.
Amazing. I'll be sure to share all the links to that in the show notes as well, so people can check it out at their leisure. So with that, thank you, Jen, for taking the time to sit down and chat today.
Thanks so much. It's been so fun.
Thanks for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at outdoor.minimalist.book, on YouTube, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter at theoutdoorminimalist.com. For even more updates, other educational resources, and to help build an outdoor community with the shared goal to create a better outdoor space as we recreate.